Welcome back to the Gulf Coast Growth Show. I'm not your host, Jason Lee. I'm Chad Burke, President of the Economic Alliance Houston Port Region, and with us today is State Representative Briscoe Cain of the 128th Texas State District.
Texas District 128, and I am not Chad Burke.
And he is not Chad Burke.
Briscoe Cain.
No, but we welcome everybody here again today. It's going to be a good conversation with our state representative from the district that covers about half of our footprint here in the Economic Alliance Houston Port Region. We're going to start out with just a few kind of basic questions and learn a little bit about how our state legislature works, how the sessions are called every other year, how long they are, go into a little bit of the personal life of our state representative, and then talk through the session, and then learn a little bit about what happens after the session moving forward the rest of the summer. So
feels like really riveting things.
This is good topic information. It's going to be our highest net viewed podcast probably in the history of our 3 years of podcasts. So Briscoe, tell us first a little bit about your political career now. You've been a state rep for, I think this is your third term, is that correct, or fourth term?
Yes, I'm just finishing up the third term. I'm not sure how much of a career that is, or whether I want to make it a political career. That's up to the people. Of
course, I think you've been elected 3 times now, so that's a career.
I've been elected 3 times. Yes, I'm now an incumbent.
But yeah, so 3 times now, and you've just finished the third term. Give us the Briscoe Cain 101 about first why you jumped into politics, right?
Yeah.
And then we'll talk a little bit about the session.
Well, I think that's a longer story, but I guess some of this is to peel back the onion a bit and be revealing. But I enjoy policy, and wanted to engage in policy. And you'll find in the legislature, in fact, in the Texas House, there's 150 of us, and there are people. It's a diverse state, not just of our people, but of the types of things the issues. I mean, there are rural Texans that there are things there that if you could campaign on, regardless of party, that wouldn't work, right? Like, I don't think, based on my platform, I'd get elected in places like Lubbock or things. They're just different because of what matters to them. And so, because of that diversity of viewpoints and needs, it can be, I don't know, it's a neat thing.
Well, and you mentioned your kind of interest and love for policy, and your background is in the legal side of the business anyway, right? Tell us a little bit about you. You've got your law degree.
Yeah, I am a lawyer. There are a lot of lawyers there, though. You believe it or not, there's a lot of insurance guys. It is again kind of a thing that represents stuff. I enjoy constitutional law, but I really get into the policy, and again. That is part of that diverse perspective that eventually kind of in what people call a sausage-making process, where we all come together and attempt to sometimes compromise and find some common ground. And I'm fascinated by why humans do things and what motivates them. And we have a lot of great ideas. I know we're all sitting around going, man, if we could just do that thing that would, if the government would act or not act. And I like to wonder, well, how does man respond to certain pressures, or what selfish motivations, and how does that better lead to the betterment of mankind? Does it create new inventions? Does it create more jobs? Does it innovate? Does it make our lives better? And how either the government can encourage that, or whether that's getting out of the way, or assisting, and it's a fascinating thing. So enjoying policy.
Yep, and you're a local Deer Park native, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, I know you graduated from Deer Park, right?
Yes.
U of H, is that
believe
right?
it or not, I graduated Deer Park in 2003. I will be 37 this year. Yeah, and as we were joking, the reason I look so young is I drank Deer Park's water and I breathe the air here.
As somebody who grew up in the neighborhood, right? I'm going to take credit for that as well.
Yeah, so. I don't understand why they're so worried about the Clean Air Act. Look at me.
Yeah, you're still 16, right?
It's in the air, man.
No, so and then so U of H, and then South Texas College of Law.
Yep.
Excellent.
Five little boys
and 5 kids. Congratulations. I grew up in a house of 5 kids myself, 4 boys and 1 girl. So, you've got the full basketball team. We had a cheerleader with almost a basketball team. So,
yeah. And they go to Austin with us.
Yeah.
Realize that it's not really something you do much of in DC, but it's homeschoolers.
We were talking about that a little bit earlier. So think about this. So the session is every other year for 140 days, if I've got that right?
That's roughly. It.
Yeah. So every other year you have to leave your home, your job, and go up to Austin to take care of the state's business. So is this the first time you took your whole family up there, or do they go up with you in each of these sessions?
We started doing it beginning my second session, realizing it. Look, there are things happen to families, and there are interesting pressures, and we wanted to make sure it never happened. That you get up there and they're so busy, and you can see the strain on relationships, and not seeing your children being a part of it. And so we decided maybe to try and avoid that, and so they go up there with us. But yes, so legislature, what we call a regular session, runs for 140 days. That's statutory; it's not constitutional. So legislature could change it, but it's been that way for quite some time now. It begins, according to statute, on the 2nd Tuesday of January in odd-numbered years. It'll always be beginning on that day, and it runs for exactly 140 calendar days and no more. But what's the but? What else could we do?
But governor can call special session.
There you go.
Right. Well, before we go into that, though, I want to make this point. So for all of our members and our audience that watches our podcast, so think about this. If you want to serve our state, if you want to serve your district as either a senator or a state representative, so every other year you have to give up roughly half your year minimum to go up to Austin. And what you've chosen to do, which I think is admirable, is to take your family with you to kind of keep that together. And I know your family is involved locally. When you're here, I see you at the Little League fields. I know that your kids are active in sports and events and clubs and things like that. But to sacrifice that time at home, if you will, to take your family up there, I think is something that we need to make sure that we are recognizing as citizens and business owners and people that are working for their community, that it takes a big sacrifice to be a state representative. Not everybody can do it, not everybody wants to do it, but we have a lot of good people that are making that sacrifice. And when I heard how you had taken your family up there, I just wanted to point that out, because that's a huge chunk of your life every other year.
Thanks, Chad.
That you have to make a life change.
We think it's a neat thing, though, in a way, as kind of homeschoolers, or in regards to that, I tend to think experiential learning is some of the best form of education, and what a neat experience that these kids get to have, experiences I didn't have as a child. And so my wife especially tries to remind them this is a privilege. I mean, they're walking those halls of getting to meet people and teaching them certain formalities that I maybe didn't grow up with, of how to behave in certain environments. They get to shake a lot of hands and training them how to be future young men and being respectable.
Think how they will grow up in the broader horizon that they will have for it. So in that sense, it's a great learning experience for your kids, a great way to grow up. So, but I just commend you on that, and I wanted to point that out to our audience, because I think that's admirable, and it's something that we as normal everyday citizens need to take into consideration when we're working with our state legislatures, the sacrifice from job and family and time in their hometown that they give up to go do that. So appreciate that. All right, so this last session, we'll save special session for after this. So this session concluded, two and a half, 3 weeks ago now, right? Give us your quick overview, recap, highs and lows of what, you chaired your first committee this session, correct? So give us a little bit of insight into what that committee did, what your role was.
Well, so I chaired the committee on elections in the Texas House, and have a new respect for chairman. It's a form of management, I guess, and of course I've run my own business and have been in those positions, but maybe never one in a political environment. Not much, maybe sometimes, unlike the corporate world, there are some people wanting your job, or there's a bunch of shuffling, and I guess it could happen there, but it's a much more common occurrence there in Austin of gamesmanship and competition. For Pete's sakes, none of us would have run for it if we didn't think we were the best and brightest, right?
Sure.
They're all A-type personalities, and so there's going to be that conflict. But yeah, it was eye-opening, as in, being known as, except for repetition, as being a bill killer or something, caring about policy and having done that to other chairman's bills or something, and now I'm in that seat and I realize, that wasn't nice, and I understand how hard they have to work, and
Excellent.
And you're reining people in, and I have of course a very bipartisan committee, and you have to work together.
Yeah.
And it all comes down to you. It's a sense of leadership thing, and trying to make sure that every one of your members is able to participate properly and has a voice. And my goal, and actually I completed it, was to make sure every single one of them, regardless of where they were on a spectrum, passed a bill out of committee at a minimum.
Excellent.
That they had a chance to participate. Because it all still falls on you, regardless of whether it was your fault. It's a kind of form of that leadership. And of course, because you're put there as a chair, your things reflect upon the person who put you there, so you're appointed by the speaker.
Absolutely.
And so it's another kind of burden of upper management, recognizing that your actions reflect upon the greater whole. So it was eye-opening. It was a lot more work. I mean, we still get paid the same.
Well, it sounds like a great growth experience. I mean, it's like the next evolution of your roles and responsibilities there. To be put in position of a chair, that's like you say, that it not only reflects on you, reflects on your committee, reflects on who appointed you to do that, and then the results of that committee will be judged by everybody out there.
Well, it was a tough one during a pandemic as well. In the end of it, it was an interesting session, to say the least. That we were used to being around each other, at least incumbents are, or just political people in general. They're all people persons, and they're used to being in front of them and talking. And if you ever watched a session of the Texas House, now the Senate's really boring. If you were sitting on TV, they're standing there at their desk with a microphone, being really respectful, and that's just the Senate. In the House, we often say it's herding cats. I mean, this right now, sitting here, may be the longest time I ever sit at my desk on the House floor. We're always up, mingling and communicating. You didn't get to do that. This time. There was quite a long time where we had to wear masks, and there was distancing, and there's plexiglass everywhere. It really changed the environment and the dynamics. And so if you're just tuning in to politics, maybe the Texas House, please don't judge the legislature based off of this last session, because you may not realize how that environment can really change the personalities and the human interactions of how things go on. So it was an interesting complexity, and I'm glad it's over, and I hope it stays gone.
You mentioned one thing in talking about your chairmanship this year. You mentioned leadership, and this podcast, that's a theme through this podcast with almost all of the stakeholders that we get a chance to talk with. But your ability as a chairman to set a vision for your committee and really kind of step into that leadership is one of the most value-added things that you can do to this session and moving forward, and hopefully in next session. It's the 20% or less of people that are the doers out there, and most of the people rely on doers like you to jump up, to run for that seat, to then do work your way through committees to a chairmanship, and then lead that with the vision that you've had. So I just wanted to kind of give you a plug there. Leadership is a key thing that we all need to step into, and you've obviously done that this last session. So
it requires you putting people before yourself. It's one of those interesting things of the burden of leadership.
Hey, it's the dichotomy of leadership, right? I'll refer to Congressman Babin's son, Leif Babin's book, The Dichotomy of Leadership, right? To be a great leader, you have to be a server, and I think you probably saw that this session.
Yeah, it was a fun one, realizing that regardless of what happens, it is, especially for this recent one, it is all your fault. You either take all the glory or whatnot.
You're the quarterback.
And it is a fascinating thing, and I have a whole new respect for it.
Yeah. Excellent. All right, so now moving forward, We touched a little bit on this thing called special session. Give us the quick 101.
Quick.
What is a special session?
Well, because legislature, a regular session is 140 days.
Yep.
Sometimes in this really big state, we need to do some extra things.
Yeah.
It's a complicated one to discuss why even our regular sessions are so short. I mean, sometimes I'm tempted to say maybe it should be longer, but then of course I think the people's pocketbooks are safer when we're not there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so are your rights, but it's a right. What some people say we're the 12th largest economy in the world.
Yeah.
And
we meet every other year, right?
We're doing a lot of things, and we've been doing that for a real long time. And when our session's been short traditionally for the same amount of time. Our pay is around $600 a month. Has been
basically
similarly
voluntary.
At one point, prior to all the inflation, maybe they was something, but it's been akin to that for a really long time, and it's just tradition. But we're that large, and I guess the idea really was that you would go home and be around the people that elected you, and go back to your jobs, and of course, traditionally maybe your farms. And due to our size of not having to constantly travel that distance, that it's really short. All right, so I want you to realize, like, this is fast. Okay, so sometimes people go, and I'm one of the few, this session I wasn't able to do it as much, but I'm one of the few that really reads bills. These are a lot of bills, and sometimes people, I recall several years ago, people talking about in DC, like, do they read those bills? You cannot read these bills. This is 140 days. There's 3,000 bills filed. It's impossible. It's impossible. Now we're reading the ones that we know are probably going to be on the calendar ahead of time, but it's that kind of speed, and I'd wonder if it would ever slow down. But your question, special session. Because of that, sometimes there are things that aren't done.
Yeah.
And the governor, it is fully within the governor's power and control to convene the legislature. So we cannot convene ourselves. It's often a question we get asked of, well, why don't y'all make a law? Well, unless we're out of session, we cannot do anything. That's kind of a separation of powers check and balance on that. The governor is fully responsible for deciding when they call it. He may call as many special sessions as he wants during the interim. That would be the time period between the end of a regular session and then until the January that Monday or whatever. He can do as many as he wants. They can be up to 30 days at a time.
Okay, so he has called a special session July 8th. I believe
July 8th.
Y'all report back. And is it?
And there's more caveats, yeah.
Yeah. Is it initially a 30-day special session? Is that
they can last up to 30 days?
Up to 30 days for that session.
We could sine die on day 2.
Yeah.
By the way, sine die is a parliamentary word for meaning to adjourn without setting a date.
To come, yeah.
So it means we've adjourned permanently. Yeah. It's anybody that's ever watched Robert's Rules or been participants of things. If you recess to a date uncertain, you've permanently done it. If you just adjourn without saying when we're coming back, it's over. We could do that on day 2, but it cannot go any longer than 30 days.
Now, for this special session that the governor has called, do you have a specific charge as the state legislature?
That is the charge. There you go. So the governor gets to pick what they want to have done.
And you can't work on anything else. It just got to be...
You can work on other things. This is a caveat. You can, but like me, might ruin your day. So if you filed something not related to the charge, to the call, it is subject to a point of order.
So then you can...
That is not germane to the call.
Kibosh on.
If it still goes to the governor's desk, some people don't know this, by the way. I get calls all the time. When's the governor going to sign that bill? By the way, the governor does not need to sign a bill. He has an option. It's either veto or the bill will become law.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So he signs, it's ceremonial in Texas for him to sign it.
But if he doesn't sign a bill, he doesn't veto a bill, it becomes law.
So if we were to pass a bill unrelated to the call and the governor didn't veto it, it can become law.
Could
right? If someone didn't use a procedural move to stop it. So you could file other things, and that will happen. There will be people doing that, hoping either maybe it's political theater, and they're showing it, or actually it may not be theater. It may be we're going to file this bill and hope that we can apply pressure or change the governor's heart, and the governor could add it to the call. So we're going to, does that make sense? So there's going to be things that are interesting to the industry.
Yeah.
They all may want to see that aren't on the call. Doesn't mean that even prior or during the middle of the session that his mind can be changed or deals could be made between the chambers to move something regardless of the call, and and it could become law.
Sure.
So I didn't want to get into the weeds, but I think that was kind of part of this.
No, that's very good.
To peel back these ideas and realize, wow, some people are already going, I didn't know the governor did not need to sign a bill.
Yeah.
or how these laws are made and when they generally take effect. And what it looks like, it's a marvelous thing. I've been through one special session. Governor Abbott had to call his first one in 2017. He did not have to do one last session. Now, some of you remember Governor Perry called a lot of special sessions. It was his style that if he did not get done what he wanted done, he would bring you back over and over and over again until people finally got the message that we're going to.
You're not going home until
we're going to ruin your summer until the legislature does what we want. So hopefully we can get in there and get things done. But again, this one I won't be bringing my family up.
Okay.
It's a in and out thing. I'll probably be there a little more than most members due to depending on the committees based upon what the governor says. So we put a topic on the call, and those committees that would probably be related to that might be working a little more than regular members, but most of us will show up on the 8th, and many will then go home.
Yeah.
Because there's no bills for them to vote on.
Sure.
The bills need to be filed and then go through those committees. So those will be working.
And the topic, has that been set?
Well, he has not officially made a call. He has set a few topics. They are what for my party would say these are red meat political topics. Yeah, there's a few of them. Excellent. Actually, one may be important to the Houston area. He has hinted about bail reform.
Okay.
So I don't know if people feel on that one, but that's been a kind of a wild topic here in the Harris County region of maybe people that are violent criminals continuing to just get out on personal recognizant bonds and recommitting things. I think public safety is an issue. Important one to industry of whether people are deciding to move their businesses here or where they want to live. And so that will be subject.
So let's look forward a little bit, not on this special session, but before the year is out, we anticipate you guys headed back up to Austin to work through redistricting. Tell us a little bit about just what does that mean to people when they hear the word redistricting, 10-year census. Just give us a quick one-on-one.
I think it's a great question. The other day at our event at the St. Augustine Monument, I think someone made a joke in the crowd. So if you were there, you heard them saying, and I bet you're really popular to congressmen right now.
Yes.
And I bet that probably went over a lot of heads.
Yeah.
Right? When we're a place where we go to church in Austin, by the way, like literally at our church there, 50% of the people that attend are not from Texas.
Oh, it's just visiting.
Well, no, they moved here. It's Austin.
Oh,
so
I get it. Yeah.
Another state, and the pastor when they explained to us, he's unable to make Dallas Cowboy or Texans or Astro. He can't make it. Just
right.
They don't get it. So sorry about that story, but it was a funny topic that here we are in Austin. I often like to say that Austin's wonderful because any direction you drive, in 20 minutes you can be back in Texas. And so that gives you an example of why it's like that. But so we're really popular congressmen right now, and I've had more congressmen in my office than ever before, and it's the darndest thing. I don't think it's because they like me. Just all of a sudden they show up, and we're going to get to the point that we draw their district lines.
That's right.
The House is going to draw the lines, and the census numbers, the decennial census, which is what we count all of our people. Those numbers due to COVID were kind of a little slowed down, and we're expecting maybe end of September, October to have them, and then we'll know.
And that happens once every 10 years, right?
And then we'll know, based on the U.S. Constitution, it's kind of a mandated thing. We will know how many new congressional seats we'll have. Some states will be losing some. It's expected that California may lose 2. We're going to gain 2 more.
Yep.
Right now, around the corner from us is Dr. Brian Babbitt's office. This is Congressional District 36. That was a new congressional district.
10 years ago, right?
Drawn 10 years ago based off of this. So we're going to do a similar process. 2 more are going to be done. Some expect maybe one going to be in North Houston somewhere, the others, but how they end up drawing, we will find out. But we weren't able to do that this session. So we're going to have to come back in a special session in order to have those numbers and draw them. What else do we do? We'll also be drawing House seats and the Senate seats.
State House.
Yes. Now the Senate will draw theirs. I actually learned something yesterday as well. I was talking to a friend. I was like, man, I really hope because there's some vacancies. And by the way, so when a vacancy occurs, when that incumbent is not running again, their seat is a little left open to the wolves or the hyenas. People are going to carve it up, and there's a candidate I really like for a Senate seat up in the Austin area. I was like, I hope we can protect that seat so that person can run. And someone's like, then the Senate draws their own. I was like, well, yeah, that makes sense. So here it is. I'm still learning things. So the House is going to get to draw our maps, and someone also discussed tension the other day at San Jacinto Monument. There we're talking, saying, well, some of us neighbors. This is when it pins neighbor to neighbor, brother against brother of where their lines are. But I don't think it'll be too much in our region. We don't have much room to go. So another maybe nerdy one. There are 24 House members in Harris County alone, solely situated in Harris County by law. It's really difficult for us to break out of the county lines. We are stuck inside the county. That's the same for Dallas, Tarrant, Bear, and I believe Travis County. They do not break out of those lines.
So if you are in Harris County, you're saying your district can't extend to another
It will
county?
not. There's under certain circumstances it can. It's probably not going to happen.
That's
I was kind of told,
note.
don't
Did not know that.
Don't wish you can. So we stop at that county line.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're in Mont Belvieu or you're in certain parts of Baytown, people ask if I represent them. Nope, it stops at the Cedar Bayou line.
Yeah.
So we don't leave it. There are 150 members of the House, so it gives you an idea how much influence our region has.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Harris County is 24 of that 150. Of course, with the Speaker being one, and 31 senators.
Excellent.
Easy way to remember that. Okay, so there's 150 Psalms. So if you remember the 150 Psalms, you can remember the 150 House members, and you can probably figure out how many Proverbs there are, and you might know how many senators we have. So
there you go.
I don't know if that was coincidence or not, but it's how I, at least by memorizing the numbers of seats, I helped memorize the number of books. And I don't know which one came first, maybe, but it's a neat topic.
Very good. All right. So I think we'll wrap it up with that, but that's some good insight. A lot of folks, I'd mentioned to you, have got a lot of questions, even just since our event on Tuesday with the legislative wrap-up about specific questions. And I thought this was a good opportunity, one, to kind of just get a look at who Briscoe Cain is and a little bit about his family and career and what he's been doing there, but then also kind of how our legislature works. And this was a good example because we just completed a session. We're going into a special session. We'll have another special session later this year. So again, I just want to say thank you for your service. Thank you to your family for the sacrifices in time that they have made in supporting you. And we thank you for what you do for District 128 here in the Houston-Port region. So with that, we'll wrap it up. We'll say thanks again to Briscoe, and we'll see you next time on the Gulf Coast Growth Show.